Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about The Boys finale, and I'm not returning to YouTube as of yet, but I wanted to make this video because I wanted to get these thoughts out before I don't return for a while. So I am a bit knackered today, and yeah, I wanted to make sure that I've got my thoughts on The Boys season 5 across before completely disappearing for a little while, because it's been a week since the finale now. Well, a week and 2 days to be exact, but we had The Boys season 5, and in a way I was disappointed, but at the same time I do feel like they wrapped it up in a decent way. It was a lot better than like a lot of other shows that I've seen with the finale. Like The Flash was not a great finale. I like the ending sequence that they had for it, but other than that, it was a very bad finale. Titans had a decent finale, but I'd still say Titans actually had a better finale than this. But I don't think that this is like the worst finale I've ever seen by any means. And the season had a lot of decent characters and things like that. And obviously, sorry I keep yawning, but Soldier Boy was involved with this season as well, which was also a big good thing, because Soldier Boy is amazing as a character. But yeah, anyways, let's get into this. So first we're going to talk about the overall season, and then I'll tell you about the finale of what my opinions on it were. So, I liked episodes 1, 3 and 8 the most out of the season. The reason for this was because I'm more of an action person. I get The Boys is not about action, but it does have a lot of compelling storytelling, which I do feel like is part of the reason why I like it. But I really do think that, like, when the fight scenes happen, they really do deliver. And they are very, very impressive from what I've seen. Right, all the way back in. Sorry, I don't know why I'm so knackered today, but all the way back in season 3, they had amazing fight scenes. Right, from when Soldier Boy fought Homelander multiple times, and Huey Butcher got the Temp V. I felt like that was like a really good arc for the show, and it went it was like going from Billy Butcher having no powers to kind of just trying to outsmart Homelander, to him having powers, and then being on the same level really as Homelander. Obviously, Homelander, from what I could see, was still a bit stronger than Butcher and Soldier Boy, but I would say only by a very small margin. But he was holding his own against them. And obviously Butcher got in there, but not Butcher. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so tired today. Huey got in there as well with super strength and, and all of that. But I really enjoyed episode 1 and 2 of the season 5. I thought they both had, like, purpose, I guess you could say. They both had good parts to them. I thought that them killing A-Train was great, because it worked so well for his character, and also Homelander chasing after A-Train as well. That was really cool. And then episode 2 was like a morning A-Train and things like that. Soldier Boy came back into the frame, and I thought that was a great season, and I thought that was a great part of the show. Episode 3 was where I felt like it kind of went on a decline a bit after that. I felt like episode 3 was decent. Like, I liked the fight between Ryan and Homelander, and I thought that was a good thing. Episode 4 was not a huge fan of. Neither was I a fan of episode 5 or 6, really. Not greatly 7 either. Like, I just kind of felt like at the beginning of the season it went from, we have to think of a new way to take out Homelander, and then it just kind of went from not having a single method from, excuse me, from episode 1 to episode 7, and obviously Soldier Boy locked Homelander in that uranium room, of course, but that was reintroduced back in episode 7 for like 30 seconds, and then that was it, and moved on. Like, it was never introduced again, and that's not the way that they used to try to take out Homelander, which I thought was a bit of a stupid situation. I felt like episodes like 4 to 8 were mostly filler episodes. I didn't really... they weren't bad, but it was like, I felt like this is the final season. There should not be any filler episodes in this show. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the show, but I do feel like that this is... we're on season 5. Like, if you wanted to have filler episodes, you should have added them in like season 3, 4, or 1 and 2, whatever you want. But it's just like, they have to think of ways to keep the entire season like moving every week, because obviously this is the end. But all the episodes were fine. I didn't really hate any of them. I just felt like some of them were a bit more pointless than others. Like them spending a whole episode in Fort Harmony trying to get the V1, only to then find out the V1 isn't even there. And then you get told, oh, we have to go find Bombsight now, who has the V1. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just kind of like a waste of an episode. You go all the way to a place only for there to not be what you're looking for, and then you just basically say, oh well, we tried, and then they go somewhere else. Like, I kind of felt like that was a waste of an episode. But yeah, anyways, and obviously there was a lot of leaks going around that like, people know what the finale of The Boys was, and like the entire season they watched episode 1 to 7, and obviously that was just BS, because let's be real, when I actually saw like what was going on with that, it was bullcrap, because obviously like someone said, oh, in the finale of The Boys, Butcher will kill Kumiko, and that never happened. I did think that all of these leaks were BS. Like, I did genuinely feel like all these leaks are BS. Like, and also the fact that someone said, oh, Ryan, like, they discussed all the theories and stuff, like Ryan flies all the way to America to stop Homelander, which he does. I'll give them that credit for that, but it's the fact that they then just completely ignored the scene before that where Homelander turns up to see Ryan. But anyways, it doesn't matter necessarily. But I felt like majority of the season was kind of like filler, and if they were, like, none of the episodes didn't have any sort of like part of the episode where that there wasn't like progression in the story, because it clearly did. Each episode had that, but I do feel like it was kind of like a waste majority of the time. The only episodes that really had movement was episode 1, 3, and 8. Other than that, there was no like movement at all in the story, other than like Kumiko trying to get the powers and stuff of Soldier Boy. But even then, I still feel like that was kind of a waste, because it's like they decided to do that right at the end of the season, when they could have made that like an episode 1 thing, and it would have made more sense them trying to develop that power. Because obviously it took Soldier Boy ages to get that power from being experimented on with radiation, which made sense. But it's like, we're talking like they had a week of time, and I'm sorry, but that's not realistic that that would happen. And obviously Homelander became immortal in episode 6, I think it was. That's right, took the V1. And then episode 7, he was immortal, and so was he at the beginning of episode 8. However, let's talk about the finale now, because that's what I'm mostly here for, other than the season. The finale, I enjoyed. I like the idea of it. However, I do agree with people that there's a lot of plot holes in the finale. I'm just saying now, back in season 3, you had a fully powered Butcher on Temp V, you had Huey, you had Soldier Boy, and they're 3 powerful suits. Obviously Huey not as powerful as Soldier Boy or Butcher, but he was powerful enough to deal with him, right? And then you got at the end of season 3, you also had the like Maeve, Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Starlight, and you had like 5 different soups that could have taken on Homelander and won. But it's the fact that they had to keep the show going, and I understand why they kept Homelander involved in it, and it actually made the show like more engaging. However, I would have preferred it if that was the point where like Homelander met his end, because I felt like that would have been a better season or finale, and then maybe like they introduced maybe like Soldier Boy as the villain, and I would much rather have Soldier Boy till like the end of season 5, and then maybe they have to like Soldier Boy, after he killed Homelander, went and laid low for a while and then decided to take over Vought and the Seven as the most powerful soup, and I think that would have worked much better. And obviously I felt like that would have been like a better kind of ending for The Boys season 5 than what we got, because I'm going to be realistic now. Homelander's lasers, Homelander's strength is incomparable to Butcher. Like, let's be real, even though Butcher has powers, there is no physical way he could go toe to toe with Homelander. Like, I'm just saying now, like, it was kind of realistic what Homelander was doing. Like, at the end of the day, the one thing I will say that they did correctly was the fact that even though Butcher was punching at full force, Butcher was not able to make Homelander bleed. Like, he was generally just avoiding Homelander as much as he possibly could in that fight, and whenever he tried to escape, he'd pull him back, and then obviously his tentacles got sliced off many times by Homelander's heat vision. The one thing I will say is Kimiko's been torn apart 1,000 times, right, in the show's, time that it's been out. Like, Kimiko's been torn apart, that sort of thing. Homelander's heat vision went from tearing people apart in instant to legit just like he would just push them back with it. Like, I'm sorry, but it can't go from, like, people argue that the V1 like made him weaker. Even if it made him a little bit weaker, it's not going to be like, oh right, okay, it's not going to slice people in half anymore, because it will. I'm sorry, but in a straight up fight like that, Homelander would have dominated them. Like, even if Ryan did get involved, we saw what happened to him in episode 3, and it did generally look like he had a bit of training between episode 3 and 8, even though we didn't see it, because he generally looked like he wasn't just swinging punches, right? I generally felt like he was actually learning, but none of them made Homelander bleed, right? I'm just being realistic now. If that scenario actually happened, and Butcher came in the room with Kimiko, Homelander found out immediately that she had the blast, he would have sliced her in two, probably instantly killed her, right? He would have lasered through her head, or lasered her heart out, or something like that. That plan is ruined, right? And then Butcher would get involved, right? And then what would happen to Butcher is Homelander would, like, obviously Butcher would put up a fight, but he's nowhere near comparable to Homelander, so Homelander would end up eventually killing him, right? And then Ryan would get involved, at least in that place, and he would either keep Ryan alive, to kind of like make him witness, or he would just kill Ryan, right? And Homelander would have won. I'm going to be realistic. Homelander should have won that fight. Like, it's just like it went from Homelander being the most dangerous soup in the planet to Homelander barely being able to deal with Butcher and Ryan. And considering in season 3, Homelander was taking on 3-4 soups at a time and still won. So I get why they did it. They had to wrap up the show, but I felt like they should have had Soldier Boy in the frame. Like, I would have, like, the fact that they froze him at the end of episode 7 and said, right, he's not coming back, that was absolutely the worst writing you could have done for Soldier Boy. I think they could have at least put him in the cage, or like that frozen chamber, and the boys find him, and then they strike a deal with Soldier Boy, which he probably would accept because of Homelander, what Homelander did. You could have had Ryan there, you could have had Butcher there, you could have even had Maeve there. I know that was to do with the actress, that's why she didn't come back, but you could have had Maeve there. You know, you could have had like 5-6 different Supes get in a fight with Homelander, and then Homelander lose, because it would have made sense because of the amount of Supes that were there. Like, you could have had Butcher, you know, you could have had Starlight. Even though Starlight wouldn't be able to do much, she could blind Homelander temporarily, and then you could get like Maeve, Soldier Boy fucking him up. Like, it would have been, like, that would have been a great thing. And then Ryan being the one that lands the final blow, and then Soldier Boy depowers Homelander, and then either Butcher kills Homelander, or they let him live as a normal person to see how hard life is. And I felt like that would have been a much better end to the season than Kimiko getting Soldier Boy's powers, right? And then, like, Soldier Boy actually delivering the blast, right? Like, I do feel like that Soldier Boy, after being thrown away, but again in episode 7, the boys could have convinced him just to work with them temporarily, and then once Homelander's taken care of, he can just fuck off again and do what he wants, like what his original plan was in episode 7, and just disappear. You know, he like, and then once that's done, Soldier Boy can do what he likes. You could cut to him at the, like, after the fight, and like it could have been like him, you know, doing drugs with older woman, and that could have been like the way Soldier Boy ended, you know, the season. And then you could have had Butcher take Ryan in, even though Ryan said he didn't want to. I do feel like if things went in a different direction, like if Butcher let Homelander live out as a normal human being for the rest of his life in a prison cell, maybe Ryan would have gone with him. But I do feel like there was other ways that could have been done. Also, the season was teasing a lot, which you never got. Also, they kept talking about, oh, like, so many members of the boys will be killed off this season, or like no one's safe. One person from the boys died up to the finale. So I'm just saying now, like, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, Butcher, Starlight, Huey, like all 6 of them, 2 of them died, right? I'm just saying, I either felt like an ending where Homelander wins would have been more realistic, or an ending where everyone has to come together to take down Homelander would have been a much better finale. But maybe that's just my opinion. But I do feel like the fact that the finale was really rushed, I felt like it went from them being super cautious of Homelander to without an actual plan, right, to them Billy Butcher just going, well, let's just fucking break into the White House and kill him. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's a bit ridiculous. And it's just like, I felt like it went from him, Homelander being one of the most powerful people on the planet, to him just being like super nerfed. Like, his powers were like super nerfed. I'm not gonna argue with anyone and say, you know, Homelander wasn't. He was nerfed. I'm sorry, but he was 100% nerfed in that episode. I'm just saying now, Homelander was like, he went from being like this tyrant, like who's the most powerful man on the planet, to him not being able to take on Butcher. Sorry, that's just my doorbell, don't worry about it.
Someone is at front door.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I do feel like they could have done a lot better. Do I think it was the worst episode? Absolutely not. Do I think they could have handled it better? 100%. Do I think they could have done a lot worse though? Yes. I just felt like the finale was super unrealistic when it comes to Butcher and that. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the finale. I would give the finale a 7 out of 10. It had a lot of decent fight scenes and things, but I do feel like it was kind of a waste. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. If you do enjoy the video, please like, subscribe and comment if you're new. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.